Welcome, everyone. I'm Bill Scott from the Wisconsin Radio Network, and I'm joined this morning by Bill Pollock from MissouriNet.com. Bill, we're going to talk about the one and done philosophy that has it's been in college basketball for quite some time. But after Duke's victory over Wisconsin in the NCAA championship game on Monday night, it has come to the forefront again. Badger coach Bo Ryan in his press conference says he does not like using the one and done type of players, and you've done a story on MissouriNet.com with a lawmaker that has been critical of the process, and why don't you tell us about that particular story before we move forward?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bill. Our U.S. Senator from Missouri here, Claire McCaskill, tweeted after the game, and I've got this called up. Let me read it. It says, congrats to Duke, but I was rooting for the team who had stars that are actually going to college and not just doing semester tryout for WNBA. Or, I'm sorry, for NBA. And fans just exploded and said, this is ignorant, blah, blah, blah. She said, well, it looks like I really started a firestorm. She said, to be clear, folks, this isn't about the kids. This is about the system. This is about the NCAA, NBA. I don't blame the very talented athletes, although her first tweet certainly looked like a backhanded compliment or maybe a little dig to the Duke players. And so, it's creeped its way back in. And, my take on this is, and again, this is, NBA and NCAA making the rules. But listen, if a kid is talented, no matter what they do, if they play basketball, if they can build houses, if they can play the piano, if they don't need that college training to get them to the next level, then they shouldn't be held back. That's my opinion. Now, the NBA is trying to protect their product because you go out and you see a kid that has potential out of high school, but if that kid isn't done growing or that kid doesn't develop the way that you want, then you kind of throw that kid out in the street after a couple of years as an NBA team, and then what? He can't go to college. So I wish they could change some things and make it a little more accessible for kids to achieve their dream, whether they have to wait 1 year or can just go right to the pros.
Bo Ryan referred to it Monday in his press conference after the game as rent-a-cops, or not rent-a-cops, but rent-a-players.
Yeah.
And I think what is interesting there is that Bo Ryan's philosophy, if you look at his history, historically, he does not recruit these types of players. He likes to develop players over the long haul. I'm not sure that those players are even earmarked or have been earmarked for Wisconsin anyway. Maybe with their success over the last 2 years now, maybe they would be. Maybe Bo Ryan has a chance to get a player like this, and it would be interesting to see if he would turn that player away, given the fact that he could leave after just 1 year. Let me play devil's advocate just a little bit. I'm not so concerned, and it's no skin off my back, to be honest with you, but I wouldn't be so concerned about players that are ready to go. And physically they might be ready to go in some cases. I worry more about the mental makeup of the decision-making process, and then if things don't go right, they haven't been taught or trained in the area of finances. You read so many stories about these players going broke, spending every dime that they make. And while they could go to college, they would have to pay their own way. They wouldn't be eligible to play college athletics. I mean, they would miss that opportunity. I really like the in college football. What is it? 2 years that they have to stay in college football?
Yeah, or you have to be removed 3 years from high school, your final high school year.
High school. I just think that if the NCAA and the NFL can get that part of it right at the football level, why can't they just get the NBA to jump on board and have the same thing work for basketball? It appears to work well for football. Why couldn't it work for basketball?
Yeah, I don't know. The other thing too is why can't they develop? I mean, listen, you're investing money in a kid. If you're an NBA team, and if you're going to take this kid right out of high school, why wouldn't teams look into investing, and maybe they do, and we just don't know a lot about it, but they need to perhaps do a better job of teaching these kids how to plan for this stuff. Listen, I still think that basketball players and football players, they seem to have a better head. If you look at take a childhood star like Justin Bieber. Here's a kid that he didn't have to go to college for a year to he was famous and talented at what he did, and what did he end up doing? He ended up getting in trouble and becoming now he's 21, 22 years old. He's kind of straightening his life back up. And he realized he did some dumb things, but there's got to be some kind of a support system in place for these kids, and I still think that they do a little bit better than when you look at Hollywood types. So again, there's got to be some training. I would think that as a league, you'd want to invest in those players and make sure that as they're playing with you, or even as they move on, that they've got some support system there, and they know what to do with their money and how to live their life after their 4, 5, or 6 year career in the NBA. Peters out. So
my other issue is and maybe I'm preaching to the choir here, but it is the actual the value of an education. Let's face it, John Calipari isn't recruiting players to go to school at Kentucky. He's recruiting them to go to play basketball at Kentucky, and makes no bones about the fact that he wants to push them into the NBA as fast as they can. By doing right for his players is getting them into the NBA and making multi-million-dollar contracts, not whether or not they graduate from the University of Kentucky. Duke isn't quite as broad, in appearance, but in effect, they do the same thing. Those are the two schools I'm picking on. There are certainly a number of institutions around the country that coaches certainly are not going to turn away the one-and-done players. Many coaches have done it, and many coaches will continue to do it. But the value of an education, the part of playing college basketball for a school has the attachment of the words student-athlete to it. And I have a hard time taking a look at some of these players, especially the Kentucky Wildcats, and calling any one of these kids a so-called student-athlete.
Yeah, they're basically the minor league for the NBA. I mean, they really are, and you're right. I mean, Calipari doesn't hide that fact. What I would say, and I'm pulling this off the top of my head. I don't know if there's been any cases, but for the most part, when those kids come in there, they don't cause trouble. I'm trying to think off the top of my head of major discipline issues. I don't see that in Calipari's program. I know he's been questionable at time with some of his recruiting that he's done over the years, or his practices, but it is. I mean, it's a boarding school for NBA talent, and you've got two different levels. You've got the guys like him, and then you've got the guys like Bo Ryan who are coaching the basketball and want those kids to develop over 2-3 years within his program. Like you said, are those kids even going to go to Wisconsin anyway? So, I mean, they know where to go. If they want to get into the NBA and they've got to play by these, silly rules of, one and done, then they're going to go to the places that give them the best opportunity to move on. So, I don't know if I necessarily blame anyone in this. It's just it's a crazy system. I wish I had the answers to it. I'm not sure anybody does. I don't know if there is a right answer to this. But if you don't have these kids moving on right away, then you'll continue to have this where the NBA factories, if you will.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's the world we live in. It's the world we have lived in and will continue to live in. And I'll close with this and offer you get your thoughts on this as well. The thing that intrigued me about this whole deal was because of Bo Ryan's comments after the game, which he may have a point, but the timing of his point sounded like he was crying over spilled milk after he lost a basketball game. But secondly, at this point in time, this has been going on for so long already, and will continue to happen. And your story with the U.S. Senator McCaskill and the fact that she's drawing some fire for her comments, it's like, what is this world coming to? She's basically stating a fact. She's stating an opinion based on something that's been happening for many years. Why would anybody care one way or the other what she said, and the outcome of her comments, some fire? Who cares? She's basically calling a spade a spade.
Yeah, absolutely. I think because she's a politician, I think she's an easy target. I think when you look at that first that first tweet that she sent out, about not just doing a semester tryout for the NBA. I mean, it does kind of sound like she's bad mouthing the players more than the system. And I think she kind of dragged them into it. But I mean, she is right, though. I mean, that is the crux of the issue. But that first tweet, I think, is what set things off. And Decker, he might leave early. You've got some guys there that certainly aren't one and done, but could certainly leave early at Wisconsin. So people were making that argument too. Well, they're not staying the full 4 years to get their college degree either in Wisconsin. I mean, if you're talented, you're going to move on. So, I think a lot of it was just that here's a politician from Missouri chiming in on a basketball game between Duke and Wisconsin, and looked like it was a pop shot. I mean, she's a fan of sports. I mean, she comments on the Cardinals. I'll see her at Missouri Tiger football games. So, I think I don't think it was a political thing at all. I think she just follows sports, and she was voicing her opinion as everybody was picking a side and cheering for a team on this. So, but I think some of it was a little unfair in the fact that it's a politician. Let's take a pop shot at her. So.
All right, Bill Pollock from MissouriNet.com. Bill, we've enjoyed your time and your comments, and you and I will be back very soon to take a look at the start of the baseball season, all right?
Yeah, we've got Brewers and Cardinals coming up here pretty soon.
Absolutely. Bill Pollock from MissouriNet.com. Have yourself a great day, Bill.
All right, thanks.
And I'm Bill Scott from the Wisconsin Radio Network.